Welcome to the Employers Legal Lounge with your host, Michael Sullivan Associates Managing Partner, Eric De Wames. Each month, we dive deep into a specific topic to provide you with valuable insights and guidance for navigating the complex world of California employment regulations. This podcast is provided for informational purposes and does not constitute legal advice. Only your attorney, with complete knowledge of the facts and circumstances of your situation, can determine how the relevant laws apply. Now, on to the episode.
Welcome, everyone. This is your Employers Legal Lounge podcast. I'm Eric De Wames, Managing Partner at Michael Sullivan Associates, and your host today as well. Employers Legal Lounge is a podcast dedicated to providing up-to-date employment law updates, HR generalist updates, tips and tricks, and usually this is best for insurance carriers, brokers, employers, HR strategists, risk managers, all the like who want to keep on top of all the ever-evolving, changing laws and needs that we have in California as employers. I always have specialists in the area as my guests. Today is certainly no exception to that. I have with me my dear friend, Patti Cuthill, and I also have Paul Falcone. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves because they have so many hats and titles and all that kind of good stuff. So we'll start with you, my friend, Patti.
Hi. Well, hello, everyone. I'm so honored to be here with Eric. I'm a big fan of Eric. My name is Patti Cuthill, and I am currently the VP of People and Culture at a company called Verve Cloud in San Diego. And I also sit on the CalSHRM California board. And I was the past president of a local CalSHRM chapter in San Diego.
Yep.
And most importantly, I'm a mom.
And so you're a deputy director for
Yes.
CalSHRM California.
Yes.
Big job.
Mm-hmm.
And past president of San Diego CalSHRM.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And somebody I lean on all the time when I need to chat HR ideas and what we do next. So
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
And Paul, my friend, take it away.
Okie dokie. So I was in HR for my 3 decades until about 4 years ago, Eric. And then I opened my own consulting firm. But I was head of HR for Nickelodeon Animation Studios and head of international HR for Paramount Pictures, a sister company. So I was with them for about a decade with Viacom. And I had also worked in healthcare and biotech. I worked in financial services. I've been a columnist for CalSHRM for 2+ decades. And I've now written 17 books with HarperCollins Leadership and the American Management Association, and I sit on the board of the American Management Association.
Wow.
You're not busy at all.
No,
just have all the free time.
Correct.
Yep. And today's a little bit special too, because when we do our podcast, usually we're in our different areas and we do it by kind of a Zoom conference. Today, we are on location, if you can call it that, on a Royal Caribbean cruise for Pyra. Yes, we have been sailing the last few days together from Los Angeles to Cabo for the HR conference. We've been speaking with our attendees, and it's been pretty fabulous.
It has been, yes.
It really has. It's been great.
I had some, reservations about conference at the sea because so many things can go wrong, and I don't really have my sea legs. I still don't. But it's been fantastic. And we spent a lot of time with each other. The series has been great. And we even got a little, downtime out in Cabo and got to go and tour and do excursions.
You swam with the dolphins, Eric.
I swam with the dolphins. I check off the bucket list. So way we start these things is, Employers Legal Lounge. We talk a lot about law. So I give this space for people, if you're listening to us and talking about the law, to enjoy your favorite adult beverage. If you don't like adult beverages, grab your tea or your orange juice. We have a little bit of bubbly to toast in the session. So cheers to both of you.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you.
It's happy hour
It's
here,
happy
just
hour
in case
here.
you're wondering.
It is. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. No, I'm just kidding. So what I'd like to do first is give a few updates on some of the trends and actually some new bills that are coming out in California. And then we can go from there. I watch, as a legislative director for CalSHRM California, I watch the bills as they come in, especially those that are going to be affecting us in 2027. Already a few of them have caught my eye. One of them is, I'm sure most of you out there, and I know both of you have heard of the Dynamex decision and also AB5, which controls independent contractors. It has been quite a thing in California to try and have an independent contractor under the current AB5 rubric, almost impossible. Because typically, if they do any work that your company can do, they're, no matter what, considered an employee if they fail any prong of the ABC test. The new law coming out as proposed is SB 806, and it proposes to repeal AB5 and override the Dynamex decision by making it easier for employers to classify as independent contractors for their workers. I haven't seen the full text of this, but I think this is a very good thing because in the especially the last few years and since AB5 and Dynamex, it's become a hotbed of litigation for employers. Misclassification issue is huge. And it's usually that well-intended employer, the one who says, hey, we contracted with that person. They wanted to be independent contractor. We wanted them to be an independent contractor. And my response always has to be when they come to me, you don't get to decide. It's a matter of law. You can have a contract, you can have an agreement, whatever it might be, but the law decides, and it's so strict, it's practically impossible to do that. So this loosens the grip of it. Once I get more detail on the text, I'll know a little bit more of whether we're going to be writing in to redline it or supporting it for sure in California. The idea itself, I think, is something we support because I think it helps both workers and it helps employers in those to actually come to these agreements and decide in those moments. Also, on the federal level, the Department of Labor has announced that they're going to repeal the prior rubric of independent contractors as well and make it easier for there to be an independent contractor. So I think good stuff coming that way. If it passes, it's definitely going to be fought pretty hard by many groups. I can imagine the plaintiffs' bar being one of them. They pay attention to these, and this really will take away a lot from the class actions and, yes, I think I'll say the word for the first time, PAGA actions. Yep, cheers. Whoever knows our drinking game, every time I say the P word, we have to drink. Please play with us out there. I have a full bottle of that. We'll be fun.
Interactive is important.
Interactive, yeah. They're right with us. Another one that came out that I think has, is good in ideology. I'm not sure how it's going to play out practically, is an expansion of the bereavement law. And what they're proposing, and those who have paid attention, CFRA, the California Family Rights Act, has opened up to people we can care about to that designated person, right? Somebody who's not blood related. And we've been seeing that in sick leave as well. Sick leave also gives that designated person. The bereavement law that's being proposed is doing basically the same thing. Somebody who's chosen family to give those 5 days off. Now, I think that makes sense in ideology. I just worry about in practice how that works. How many people can we, elect for chosen family? How many, remember right now it's unlimited bereavement time. It's 5 days for each one. So I can see how that can go awry. And if there's enough protections in there for to prevent abuse, I think it makes sense. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think it's going to be really complicated for the employer to manage it.
Yeah.
We were talking about earlier.
Yep.
Our HRIS systems are not really built to track it. And I think that we're just not there right now where we could implement something like that. But I agree that I think there is some movement that should happen. I think when we look at the family, to what we consider a family unit today, things have changed so much.
Right.
So I think that the law should start, evolving to some of that. It's just a matter of how do we take that and then from a practice standpoint, implement it in a way that is going to be a good experience for the employer and the employee.
Yeah, I can see this one being what we do with a lot of our, for SHRM California, when we see these bills, we go and testify. And we have HR specialists, we have, business owners testify to the extent of, well, sounds like a great idea, but this is how it's really going to impact us. This is what's really going to happen when we start doing this. And giving that feedback can help us, at least try and tailor that law a little bit more. So it's not so cumbersome for tracking those types of issues.
Yeah, I also, just one last thing, I think that when you're a smaller employer, the financial burden that this could bring is also something that we have to consider.
Yeah, especially if, it's abused, how many chosen family members you can have. People could be out for a very long time.
Yeah.
With that. Another one that I want people to keep an eye on, I've mentioned this before. 2025 was a year where legislators were really working on artificial intelligence laws. Most of them did not make it through. Those laws were generally related to notice, surveillance, opting out of use of AI when it's coming to when decisions are being made. Those did not make it, but they've revived it. I just saw. So there will be a new artificial intelligence law proposed. Targeting, bias, discrimination, how employers use it, and the human component of watching it. And I think that part's good. I mean, there should be no AI that's just running itself on these. It needs HR. It needs us to watch it. But the notice provision and, if there's potential opt-out, I mean, employees shouldn't be able to opt out of these systems just arbitrarily. Creates a big problem as far as I can see. So that is also coming. We'll be tracking that one. I expect that this is definitely one we'll probably be redlining and sending back to legislators. Something to watch. If people out there listening also want to get involved, reach out to me. We'll definitely need people to testify on these and have your voice heard. And in April, because I haven't mentioned it yet, we have our CalSHRM California conference, April 15th through 17th. Did I get that right? And during that period of time, we all go to Capitol Hill together. And I set up meetings for everybody. We go in, we talk about these bills, we talk about how we're being impacted, making a difference. And so far, it's been a wonderful experience for attendees to do that. So please join us for that CalSHRM California conference, especially if you want to go to Capitol Hill for those. One more that I saw that doesn't have a bill number to it yet, but the philosophy behind it gives me a little bit of pause. And what it is how do they propose it? A right to remote work. Right to remote work privileges is coming out. It will be proposed for public employers. This is no longer just a accommodation or at the employer's desire. It is going to be a right. I can see all sorts of ways that could be a problem.
Here we go.
Here we go. When I saw that, I was like, okay, well, I mean, we are California, so nothing should surprise me. But now we're in right to remote work world. So many different things that could, be problematic with that. Workers' comp. I mean, obviously, there's a workers' comp extension to, working remote. You're in your own house. You trip over a Lego, whatever it might be, is a workers' comp issue. There's all sorts of different exposures out there. Off the clock work, all sorts of things that we have some protections in there. But when we start making it a right, I think, problems will necessarily evolve, from that. And I'm all for remote work because I find people can do a great job and be able to work from home. And there are some people who do not perform as well outside of the workplace, right? And as employers, we should have that ability to bring them back in, until that performance, improves. But that's my 2 cents. That's how I feel about it anyway.
You'll fix that for us.
I'm right on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got this. I got this. So we'll move on from there. Those are the main legislative components that we have. But what I wanted to do is, and I was sitting in on some of the conference and some of your speaking this last week. I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Maybe you can give some of your best tips that you've been talking about during this cruise to some of our listeners.
Sure.
Yeah.
Be happy to.
Yeah.
Once you fix all those... Oh, no.
Oh, okay. It's a deal. Okay. I brought champagne for this and everything.
I have the champagne. Yeah. So everyone, the thing for me, doing this pirate presentation on a ship rocks. This is a lot better than going to the Long Beach Convention Center.
It's rocking, all right.
Yeah, this is nice.
And the ship actually rocks.
Yeah, it really rocks.
I was holding on a little bit. But what we ended up doing is we did presentations, and the speakers were asked to kind of present in different areas. Yep. One of mine was on giving tough feedback with executive presence. And it's really, really hard to do that, just in a nutshell. Yeah. What I was talking about was how do you move to that coaching leadership paradigm? If people feel judged, if the way you say it is, what were you thinking? Why did you do that? Et cetera, they're going to recoil. It's going to become very defensive, and they're going to blame someone else or blame you, but they're not going to assume even partial responsibility.
Yep, that's true.
Better way to do it is to talk to people from a standpoint of career and professional development. We know, studying Gen Y and Gen Z as intensely as we have, career and professional development is like one of the top 5 priorities in every survey I've ever seen. So how you couch a conflicting topic or one that you suspect is going to make people recoil or become very defensive is to position it in a way that they see it as something for their own career and professional benefit and something that they'll want to change, not because, again, you're telling them they have to, but because they want it for themselves. And the example I gave kind of sounded a little bit like this. You know, when you talk with someone who's the top sales producer or whatever, but they've kind of got a really tough attitude, it's difficult to deal with them. You know, you can sit down and make them feel judged. You know, people don't like working with you, Paul. People cut a white swath around you. You better fix this. But that doesn't really get it done. More managers not take the opposite effect, which is just don't address it and look the other way and sweep it under the rug and hopefully it fixes itself. But then some proverbial straw breaks on the camel's back and they come running into my office in HR and they want the person gone. And of course, the performance reviews are stellar and there's no progressive discipline. So we've all seen that movie. The third piece, the third option is to come to them from a standpoint of career and professional development, which might sound like, you know, the most important decisions in your career can be made when you're not in the room. That's the same for you as it is for me, as it is for everyone else. And there's something that may be missing awareness that could potentially hold you back in the future when you're not in that proverbial room at some point to defend yourself. Do I have permission to share? And at that point, they're listening because they don't feel judged, but you still have the right to be objective as a leader. And instead of saying you always do this, you never do that, which again is going to turn people off. You leave those adverbs out. You don't want always and never. You know, there are times, Paul, when I've seen and when I've heard from your peers is blah, 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 blah. And as a result, people tend to avoid you if they can. They talk about cutting a white swath around you or walking on eggshells when they have to deal with you. Is that something that you're aware of? And is it something that you think you might want to turn around? Because if you do, I can help you with that. I'll have your back. I'll make it safe for you to do this right now so that it never holds you back in your career. But even if you don't want me to be that coach and mentor, so to speak, I still have to clarify for you what my expectations are. I expect people to seek you out for your input. You are our top sales producer month after month, quarter after quarter. Great. That's wonderful. But you're not necessarily paying it forward the way I would expect you to. And I do need you to become that role model. Because again, if you can be as strong on the conduct, behavioral side, the team building side, as you are in terms of your individual performance, your career goes through the roof. But so long as you kind of hide behind the fact that you're a top sales producer and you think no one can touch you, that's going to potentially hold you back. Right. So again, it's still telling them, man, you got a bad attitude. But you're not doing it in a way that makes them feel bad about themselves, makes them feel like they're in trouble or that they have to defend themselves. Some people can right on the spot say, you know, thanks for giving me that feedback. No one's ever given me that feedback. More often than not, they need a little time to sleep on it.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's true.
Yeah.
At first, they probably, push back a little bit.
They push back a little bit. But then you can say, listen, I want you to think about it, sleep on it, and just come to see me about it by the end of the week or by the end of next week, whenever's a good time for you. But come and let's talk about that, because perception is reality until proven otherwise. Your intentions may not be to cause that, but they could be having that effect on other people. And again, it could be something that's just missing awareness, because I respect how hard you work and how fast you move. But sometimes it can be at the expense of other people, and I don't want that to be something that people use when they describe you in their little 30-second narrative. And that kind of conversation, Eric, I think will make people honestly say, you know what, no one's ever called me on that. I admire the fact that he at least was willing to tell me, and I know that I'm a bad child every once in a while, but he doesn't want that in his shop. I could kind of relate to that.
It makes it more collaborative, and as opposed to just saying, hey, this is, X is wrong with you. It is, hey, how can I help you get past this? I think it's such a great way. It seems simple, but, I have a lot of clients, and when I come in, there's, trying to help. It is usually about the approach. on how they delivered this news. Not feeling respected, not feeling heard, not feeling it's just reactionary, right? And we're all human. I mean, and I'm a manager too. Sometimes you have that, compulsion. You want to be reactionary, and you have to take a beat, right? Because you have to think about, hey, how would I bring that person forward, and what's my goal here? I don't want to necessarily lose somebody. I want to make them better, right? If my goal is to make them better, how do we do that for that one person?
And it's the first 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It really is. If you can make your managers feel more confident about opening those conversations and giving them some kind of lead-in, they're going to talk. But as long as they feel that body language, they're just not going to go with it. And so one of the other ones I suggested in the workshop, and it's from that book I'd written, 101 Tough Conversations to Have with Employees, is to talk to someone about the fact that you may have a perception problem on your hands. I'm not, saying you did anything wrong, but perception is reality until proven otherwise. And I have to hold you accountable for your own perception management, just like I do myself and everybody else on the team, right? They used to call them PR firms. Now they call them perception management firms. It's that same idea, but this is your leadership brand. This is your reputation. And if I don't address it with you, I'm not really doing you any favors. So I want to talk to you about it because again, it might be something that you want to adjust for your own benefit. And I'm here to help.
It also impacts the whole organization when one person is not value aligned, because then it almost gives everyone else permission. Well, you let that person do it. I have the right. Why are you holding me to a higher standard? That's what I've found in my organization. And I also think that, and I've heard you talk about this a lot, Paul, but part of telling people what, kind of their blind spots, it's a way you care for people. And so when my leaders have a hard time having these critical conversations, I'm like, if you care about them, you have to have this conversation. There's probably 3 other managers before you that never did, and now you're in it with them. So caring for them is being honest. And I think at the end of the day, like you said, I don't know that when I've had a real critical conversation, someone's immediately gone, aha, yeah.
Absolutely right. Terrible.
Every single time, I would say 90% of the time, they'll come back and say, you know what, thank you for, even if it's not at that company, but I run into them later, thank you for that feedback. That really helped me move the needle in the right place for my leadership. So it's a privilege to be in leadership, and you have that responsibility to care for people. And that care goes both ways. It's not just about unicorns and rainbows. It's also about how do I help you develop your leadership. Yeah.
How do you get that training to your supervisor so they're actually implementing it?
Yeah. So in my organization, and I'll just say generally, I create a leadership program within the organization that's completely value aligned. And so everyone, all of our leaders go through that. So there's no room for what does that value mean? How do I role model it? We clearly say, here's what it looks like to value people in relationships. Here's what it looks like to value the greater good. And we define what those values are. And that's a real important part. And just one last thing about the leadership program. And I have to say, I modeled this after WD-40. Gary Ridge, shout out to him and his team, Leadership Lab. And we do a lot of leadership psychology, because a lot of times in these MBA programs, you're learning a lot about the bottom line business and how to make money and profitability. And you don't learn a whole lot about people management and the psychology behind what you need to know to be a great leader. And so we do add that in. And we actually make that open to everyone in our organization, not just people with the title. So it buys in that, it binds everything to what people, how they behave. And they can also hold my team will hold me accountable if I'm doing something that's not value aligned. I tell them, call me out on that. If I'm not value aligned, call me out on it. So,
and you open the door to that. And I think you're right. A lot of organizations focus on kind of the bottom line, as opposed to how important it is for their bottom line to train their supervisors this way. And, appreciating that it's not just about whatever product it is, whatever they're supervising. It is how they treat their employees, right? If they want to keep them.
Yeah, leadership is a stewardship of those people in your span of care. That's how I look at leadership.
Yeah.
And I define my success by the way I impact the lives of people I have in my span of care. That's how I know if I'm doing the right job. And that's what we talk about at our organization. So.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Something you said also that really rang true for me, and because it also crosses over to the legal aspect, is performance reviews, accurate performance reviews. And I think you chatted a little bit about it today, with the group and I'm going to let you say it because you distinguished performance reviews and disciplinary actions so well. If you could explain that a little bit for us, and I have some thoughts on it of why it gets into some of the legal issues that we deal with quite a bit.
Did you really like it that much?
I did.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to do it right now then for that.
I know. That's what I'm seeing it right now.
You teed it up. Okay, so the funny thing is where the managers get lost because they haven't been trained on this. And Patti, to your point, even if they have an MBA, it was organizational design, organizational behavior, organizational effectiveness, nothing about leadership in the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't divine this stuff unless we're the ones teaching them.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is there's a mistake out there. What they think is they're doing something on the progressive disciplinary plane. Then they have to give an annual review, and they see them as totally separate.
Mm.
And enough managers told me through my career, well, if a guy's on a final written warning and I have to give him an annual review, I'm not going to fail him on the review. And I would say, well, why not? And they would say, well, double jeopardy. I already beat him up once. I'm not going to beat him up again. And I really want to make sure he gets a merit increase. Now, truthfully, when you think about that, it's very logical. I could totally see where someone would think that. But what they don't realize is that record needs to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And the documented written record has to show that if you're on an active final written warning, you pretty much failed your annual review.
Mm-hmm.
And that will work. The way I've explained it, the little story I've always told them was think of an annual review like a battleship. It's a big, giant ship. It displaces tons of water. It covers an entire year. A disciplinary document that you're given, a warning, whatever you want to call it, is almost like a little PT boat. It zips in and out of the personnel file, and it breaks the chain of positive reviews. So even if you're not on a ship, when you're doing this,
even though we are right now.
We are right now. We have to be, but even if you're not, think about it. They've been there for 3.5 years. They've got 3 battleships sitting in the harbor, all saying they met or exceeded expectations. But then PT boat number 1, the discipline starts, and then a month later there's PT boat number 2, and then finally PT boat number 3, a final written warning, a PIP, whatever you want to call it. If they violate the terms of that final written warning, you're cleared to move them to termination because you've moved the record away from the battleship sitting in the harbor.
Mm-hmm.
Those PT boats are really critical. But where managers get mixed up is, okay, now it just happens to be annual performance review time. Okay, now you're going to give Paul Falcone a review that says he met expectations, not realizing that you just validated all of those PT boats. Basically said, even though you're on a final written warning,
You're still great.
You're still great as far as the year is concerned. And the managers don't get that. So again, paint that picture, use whatever example you like, but help them understand how the consistency in the documentation is critical in terms of according due process and keeping plaintiff lawyers away. Because if they see that document, they're going to kind of come after the company and say you denied the person due process because the person didn't know their job was in jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, it'll discount all the rest of the work that you did. And where I see this all the time in the litigation world is you have that supervisor who says, hey, I want to get this person, gone. I've done all these disciplinary actions. I did the PIP, all of that stuff. And a lot of times they don't even look at the performance review. They look at the disciplinary actions, right, until later. And they let them go. The first thing a plaintiff's attorney looks at goes, well, yeah, but look at, 5 out of 5 across the board, highly valuable, exceeds expectations, bonus them out. And then it leads credence to whatever argument they're saying is the real reason you let me go was because insert protected class or, leave of absence or whatever it might have been in there because, look at that great performance review. And I think it is so important to have supervisors trained on the impact that that has. And I understand usually supervisors are thinking about bottom line and making people happy. So they don't get attrition, trying to keep talent, all of that. So I don't want to give them a bad review because we're busy right now. We can't afford to lose anybody. Right?
Yeah, we don't have
and it happens all the time. But then they get that whatever claim, they see a workers' comp claim. They're like, oh, they've been out for 3 months. Get rid of them. They've been terrible. Well, look at this performance review. If you do this now, it's going to look like you just got rid of them because they're on a workers' comp leave. It's because they did not do the full and proper work. Huge thing to make sure your supervisors are trained on that. The way I like to do it, and let me know your thoughts about it, is I like to use the job description. I tell tell your supervisors, you're going to do a performance review. You're evaluating them on the things that are essential to their job, right? Because if later, if whatever it might be, and if they can't do that essential function, whatever it might be, if you haven't evaluated, it's probably not essential. But take that job description and look, how are they doing on all those things that the company through this job description thinks is essential every time. If you're doing 5s across the board, then whatever you wrote before and probably what you're going to write after is going to be discounted in a major way. But in the job descriptions, I think this is the one thing I find a lot of times when I get new clients. I look at the job descriptions and it looks like, I don't know, it's sometime in 2005 that they last updated it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's because, it's a lot of work here. I'm like, I get it. But these are tools that help you in all sorts of ways. Could help you in a workers' comp way if you're, trying to figure out, can that person perform the essential functions of the job? It's there, right? And all the physical requirements and all that type of stuff. But you guys do so much other stuff. It's like, we'll get to that later. At least every couple of years, take a look at those. Is my thought.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little bit of a joke. Joke is not maybe the best word, but the first thing someone in people and culture will ask when a manager comes to them is, let's pull up the last performance review.
Yeah,
it's that prevalent that people don't do it. And I would say it's a disjustice to the person who's getting the review too, because that's super confusing to them that, oh, now I'm great. I'll forget all the rest of that stuff. All that stuff now is undone and the marker has to start again from that point forward. So it's a lot of work, like you said. One of the things that we do at Verve is we do spend a lot of time working with our leaders on talking about the full process so they understand. Because I would say that people think about a job description. They're like, oh, I looked at that when I came in. I looked at it when I left, or maybe not even then. But if you train your leadership that how important, it is this process of separation, right separation, or when it's time to go, and all these moving pieces matter along the way. If they understand what I'm looking at and I need and the attorneys need, it's much easier for them to, when they're in it, think about, oh, I remember we got to go over that job description. I remember Eric said that, or because we'll bring our attorney in to do the training also. And so as much as I can get them to understand my process and my world, the more support I get from them as a leader, which is really, I think I've learned over the last 10 years that as much as you can bring them into your process and unveil it and say, I'm not just doing this to make your life miserable. There's a purpose behind it. So it really is what's behind the curtain. Why are you asking? Because they're really smart and they'll pick up on it.
Yeah, I find that you also brought up a really important point, both of you, before as well. I really think that employees crave that type of feedback, and they feel valued when you do it. If you do it the right way, like you were suggesting, and if you don't do that, I think they just kind of coast through, and they don't feel terribly valued. Now, in doing this, it sounds like you're doing it at Verve already, but a big part of it is training supervisors and managers about what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know, right? They don't, they don't get evaluated on, compliance issues, right? It's not their thing. So bringing them into like a regular training, and I like doing them, once a year. I suggest my clients do a leave of absence, return to work training every year, which overlaps with these job descriptions, performance evaluations. And because they don't know what, when to ring that bell of, hey, not it, this is an HR thing. They're doing all sorts of things that we would terrify us if we knew that they were doing it. We usually don't find out till later, right? After the loss, oh, this didn't happen. And you start talking to the supervisor, like, oh yeah, I sent those text messages. Okay, great. So yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Paul brought up a really good thing in his presentation also that I do, is I think this just, as I've grown in my position and my experience, is I will do scripts for my new leaders that are really scared and uncertain. And I'll write out, if this person asks this question, this is a good response. And it's not for them to read the paper. It's just for them it's almost like a security blanket they could go to if something, because I think most of the leaders are worried about, what if they ask that question? What do I say? And so we do like a little role play and scripting. And I'm like, really, if it gets complicated, you know what? It's okay to take a pause and say, you know what? I don't have the answer for that right now, but let me get back to you. And it's okay to stop and do that. And it's much better to do that than to just feel like you have to fill the space with an answer.
Yeah.
And so I think giving your leaders confidence and just having those little scripts it's been magic for us.
Moving on from the supervisor training, which I think is good for every year. To do supervisor training, so they know how to handle their employees. They know how to take care of these performance reviews. They're up to speed on what the legal ramifications are, even if they're not dealing with it. And they also know when to actually say, hey, not it, right? I'm a supervisor. I don't want to get that medical note. I don't want to know about those medications you're on or all those types of things. They just don't know when to stop that point of view, right? But tell me, you have the most recent book you have is...
The First Time Manager HR.
First Time Manager HR, now out?
Yeah, oh yeah. It's been out about a year. Yeah. And it's the first book I've ever written, Eric, for an HR audience, like strictly for HR. Some of my books have always been for general management audiences.
That's surprising because you're an HR legend in the circles that we're in.
Oh, shucks.
So, yeah. Everybody knows who Paul Falcone is. He's going to be on my podcast? I should have had a book so you could sign it for me.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to be on Eric's podcast. I can't believe it.
Well, I appreciate both of you so much. Hopefully all of you listening got some great tips out there. We will do this next month again. Please join us for the SHRM California conference coming up in April. And we'll keep you posted also on the developments of some of these bills and laws as they come. To my dear friends, Patti and Paul, cheers to both of you.
Cheers.
Put it down.
There
okay.
It goes.
Cheers. Cheers.
There we go.
Salute.
Cheers to all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Employers Legal Lounge podcast, presented by Michael Sullivan and Associates. Remember to subscribe on your favorite streaming platform so you never miss an episode. We release new content every month, ensuring you stay informed about the latest developments in California employment law. If you have any questions, topic suggestions, or would like to be a guest on our show, don't hesitate to reach out to us at msa.news/podcast. We'll see you next month with another episode of Employers Legal Lounge.